Isn't it amazing that, and maybe this kind of like just pulls the rug out from under both of us and all of our life's work. But isn't it amazing that the CIA and the federal government in the United States allows things to be declassified after 50 or so years, and that we just find out the most outlandish things the CIA actually did? That's that the government's saying, yeah, 50 years ago, yeah, we did try to overthrow this government, or 60 years ago, we tried to assassinate this foreign leader, democratically elected, or yada, 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 go on and on and on. But isn't that sort of remarkable? I mean, obviously, when I studied the Soviet Union back in the day, it was called Kremlinology, because there just weren't any sources, because it was all behind closed doors. And a lot of what China people are doing these days have the similar problem, right? It's we just don't know what the Communist Chinese Party is saying, and they don't announce it. Unlike Americans eventually announce, meaning American sort of government officials eventually seem to announce most of what we need to know, and it's utterly damning, and yet there it sits.
Yes. And in a sense, that is the most insidious form of information control,
Okay.
because then they can come out and say, look, there are no hidden secrets. Look, we told you all about that thing that happened 50 years ago. It's not happening now. Trust us. See, right. You can trust us because we told you about those bad things that happened 50 years ago. And then 50 years from now, you find out what they were doing today. And 50 years from then, you find out, et cetera, et cetera. But it is an exceptionally effective way of containing the box of criticism. So here is allowable criticism about the things that we've done in the past, but we've learned our lesson. We're moving forward. And that again, I mean, you could not come up with a more thoroughgoing control of the information paradigm than what has been constructed, specifically in the free and open and democratic Western nations that are transparent and they value human rights and all of this rhetoric. And they will live up to the rhetoric to the exact point at which it starts to interfere with current agenda items, in which case, then, of course, it goes out the window. But yes, being able to point to all of that stuff that you can criticize about the past is a way of, in a sense, giving them carte blanche for what they're doing at the moment.
To me, the problem, I guess, is that this is speculative, but I mean, I have to think that the problem at the base of all of this is that Americans, generally speaking, have been actually uninterested in politics. It's weird to say that now, but it's actually true. And even now, when they seem to be hyper interested in politics, they're actually not, right? Of course, most of them have a very superficial understanding of politics based on the particular cable news network they watch. But I have to think that this sort of, and I don't know if it's deliberate, but this way of couching everything in ways that make it seem legitimate, like we're gonna release the documents in a certain number of years, that depends upon not just an ignorant, but an apathetic public, right? I mean, if I would like to think that in other countries, if they disclosed this previously classified information about assassinations and coups and yada, yada, that there would be a different reaction, or what do you think?
Well, you would like to think so, but look, for example, at the declassification about Operation Gladio, or at least the bits of it that have been declassified. It did cause a ruckus at the time in the early 90s when it was first coming out in Italian Parliament.
Now, which operation is this?
Operation Gladio. So this was the stay-behind operation that NATO formerly was in charge of, but that definitely had ties into the U.S. Intelligence apparatus. And that was essentially the cover was, well, the commies may come in and invade Europe, so we have to make sure that there's these secret paramilitary organizations that will be armed and equipped and able to do sabotage work when the commies come in and invade Europe. But of course, all they ultimately ended up doing was committing terror attacks and then blaming them on the commies in order to essentially rule through fear, the years of lead and all of that in Italy. As it turns out, it was all this NATO stay-behind operation that went rogue or whatever. That started to come out in the early 90s through Italian parliamentary investigations and started to cause a ruckus. There were even, mainstream BBC documentaries and things that have been made about this. But the investigation went so far, and then does the public even know the name Gladio at this point? Maybe no. Not. And do they know that, in fact, Gladio was just the name of the Italian version of that operation and there were different branches in different countries? I mean, it starts to get more and more complex and most people just lose the plot at that point.
So here I am, a historian of American foreign relations. I don't really know about it. Thank you.